What would you do if the person you trusted most, the one who held your heart, your secrets and your future betrayed you in the worst way possible? Imagine coming home after the most devastating day of your life, expecting comfort only to walk into a nightmare, your wife, in your house in your bed, but not alone, and the man with her someone you trusted, someone who is supposed to have your back. The pain is instant, the rage is blinding. But then comes the real question. Do you walk away or do you make them pay? This isn't just a story. It's raw betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge served cold. Stay with me until the end, because what happens next will shock you. I still can't shake the images from that day, images that play in my mind like a horror movie on a loop. I had no idea that morning as I kissed my wife goodbye before heading to my mother's funeral, that it would be the last time I'd ever look at her. The same way, no, I didn't just lose my mother that day. I lost my wife, my trust, and the very foundation of my world. It was a Tuesday, an ordinary day that quickly spiraled into the darkest chapter of my life. I had been married to Lauren for 5 years, and everything seemed perfect on the outside. We lived in a beautiful home in the suburbs. Both of us had stable jobs, and there was never a hint of trouble. But then, like a thief in the night, betrayal came creeping in, and I had no idea. It was already there, lurking ready to destroy everything I held dear. My mother had been battling cancer for the past year. She wasn't doing well, and I'd been splitting my time between taking care of her and being with Lauren. It was a rough period, filled with late-night hospital visits and endless emotional stress. But Lauren, she always seemed supportive. She never complained, always told me how much she loved me and how proud she was of everything I was doing for my family. On that Tuesday morning, my phone rang as I was getting ready to leave. It was a call from my mother's doctor. "I'm sorry to inform you, Mr. Matthews, but your mother has passed away." He said, his voice steady, but I could hear the weight behind it. I dropped to my knees. The last person Eva wanted to lose had just slipped away, and I felt an empty I couldn't describe. But in that moment, I wasn't alone. Lauren was there holding me, telling me everything would be okay. I made arrangements immediately and decided I should go alone to the funeral home to finalize the details. Lauren, ever the supportive wife, said she would stay home to keep everything in order. I left my heart heavy with grief, but comforted, knowing my wife was holding down the fort. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that while I was laying my mother to rest, Lauren was in our home with someone else. I've heard about cheaters. We all have right stories of betrayal, of people who hurt those who love them. But when it happens to you, it's like your whole world shatters. The thing that kills me is that I never saw it coming, not even a hint, not even the smallest indication that something was off. The day felt like a blur. I barely remember the funeral. I don't remember the people who came to pay their respects. My heart was elsewhere, lost in the grief of my mother's passing. But my mind kept wandering back to one thought. Lauren. I couldn't wait to get home and hold her, to find some comfort in her arms after the pain of the day. When E got home that evening, the house was eerily quiet. I called out for Lauren, but no one answered. I assumed she was in the shower, or maybe she'd stepped out. For something, I was drained emotionally and physically, but I couldn't shake the strange feeling in the pit of my stomach. It was like something was wrong, and I couldn't pinpoint it. I decided to freshen up as I entered the bedroom. Something caught my eye, a subtle detail that would change everything. The bed was slightly out of place. It wasn't much, just a tiny misalignment of the pillows. But in that moment it stood out. It wasn't the first time I'd been home to find the bed in that state, but I couldn't remember Lauren ever leaving it like that before. I walked toward the living room, thinking maybe she had gone out. But as I reached the hallway, I heard the faintest sound of laughter. I froze, my blood running cold. The laugh was unmistakable. It was Lauren's laugh. But it wasn't just her laugh. There was another voice. I crept forward, my heart pounding in my chest. The closer I got, the clearer the voices became. I reached the kitchen, and there in the dim light of the living room, I saw them, Lauren sitting on the couch, her back against the armrest, laughing, and beside her my lawyer, my damn lawyer, the man I trusted to handle all of my legal affairs, the man I had gone to for advice. The man who was supposed to be a professional who I thought was my friend. My world fell apart in that moment. I felt like I was drowning, unable to breathe, unable to think my own wife in my own home, with the one person I never expected. I was angry, but more than that, I was heartbroken. I stood there watching them for what felt like an eternity, and they didn't even notice me. They were too busy enjoying each other's company, too busy laughing at some private joke. Lauren's hand rested on his leg, and the way he looked at her, like she was the most precious thing in the world, made me sick. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually my anger broke through. He slammed the door open, causing both of them to jump in. Surprise, they both stood up at once, their faces filled with guilt and shock. But there was something else in their eyes, something that sent ackle down my spine before either of them could speak. I turned and walked out. I couldn't stay in that house for another minute. I couldn't be in the same room as them. I didn't know where I was going, but I had to get away. I spent hours walking, just trying to clear my head. The city was dark, the streets empty, but my thoughts were loud, my mind raced. Every memory of Lauren flooding back, every smile, every kiss, every "I love you," and I realized that all of it had been Ailey. It took days for me to process. Everything I didn't know what to do. I was lost in my own pain, trapped by the betrayal that seemed to consume me. But revenge was the only thing that made sense. In that moment, I filed for divorce immediately, but that was just the beginning. I couldn't let them get away with it. So Lauren had betrayed me with my lawyer, and I had to make sure that both of them felt the consequences of their actions. So I made a plan. I was going to take everything from them piece by piece. I wasn't going to play by their rules. I wasn't going to let them walk away without facing the consequences of what they've done to me. If you've ever been deceived, if you've ever felt thesting of lies, you'll feel every second of this. Like, comment, and hit that subscribe button, because trust me, this is only the beginning. Now let's get into it. I hope you like my stories. Kindly press the bell icon for more attractive stories. Love you all, my viewers and listeners.